Welcome to Annuity News Now. A recent study has revealed that holders of fixed index annuity contracts want to keep these policies in force rather than surrender them. My guest is annuity expert Jack Marrion. He is president of Advantage Compendium in St. Louis. And Jack, I'm sorry to interrupt your lunch, but thanks for joining us today.
It's good to be back.
All right, Jack, talk about this study and some of the factors that were analyzed here.
Well, they examined the annuity policies of several carriers and tracked the surrenders and the in-force business just to see what was happening over time. And what they found out was that people today are keeping, more likely to keep their contract than they have, at least in the recent past.
So talk about how things like interest rates are playing a part here in the volatility that's going on in some of the equity markets.
Well, there's three or four things that come into play. One is a lot of old contracts are flexible premium contracts, which means you can add to them. And a lot of these old contracts have minimum guaranteed rates of as high as 3%. So there's a reason to stay with those contracts and add money to them when you can get a guaranteed minimum of 3% in a 0.34% CD world. So that's one aside. Another aspect is exchanging one annuity for another has been a very active part of all sides of the annuity equation. And we're seeing that tread down a little bit because of increased suitability requirements on the part of the carriers. So not as many exchanges. And lastly, you've got annuities that have strong living benefits that may have grown at 6, 7, 8, 9, 10% for the last few years, and it's very tough to find a reason to move those because you're going to lose that benefit.
I guess the report, doesn't really, explain all the reasons behind it or clarify everything, but talking about these kinds of products here as we go in the future, do you see this as much more of a trend given the way economic conditions are right now?
In that there'll be fewer surrenders and exchanges?
People hanging on to them a lot longer.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Let's look at the industry of annuities now going forward. We've seen things like the GAO recommending these as being part of people's portfolios. Index products seem to be gaining a lot of popularity, obviously, because it does protect you from the downside and does give you some upside with exposure to the equity markets. Can you talk about what you see here in the next couple of years for these products?
Well, that is the attraction. Right now, you've got CD rates again at roughly 1/3 of 1% going out a year, and fixed rates have also come down because bond rates are down. So in the index annuity world, it still gives you a possibility of earning 3, 4, 5, 6% interest. And when you combine that with the study I'm just finishing, which finds the last 4 years have been the most volatile stock market period in the last 40 years. It drives people to the safety of the index annuity.
Can you look at the regulatory environment now? It seems sort of quiet. What do you see coming in the future?
I don't see problems because the problems have been taken care of. There was a concern about supervision of agents and the sale of these products. That's been handled. The states have stepped up. They're doing a much better job of supervising. The carriers are doing a much, much better job of supervising business. So I don't see the problems we had in the past.
Do you still see there is still a little bit of an education gap, both obviously from consumers who are just beginning to understand what these products really can do, and even from the professionals who sell them?
Yes, I agree. There's definitely is a gap. There's a bias in some people's minds against just the term annuity because they have a very tight picture of what that is. But that bias, I think, is going to be replaced with more eagerness because you've got more name brand firms coming into this.
And you see more transparency in these products in the future?
They tend to, yes, they're more transparent. You know better what you're getting. And again, you've got some big names coming into the field, and that's going to help the education.
All right. Well, Jack, we always appreciate your time. My guest once again is annuity expert Jack Marrion, eating his lunch in St. Louis. He is president of Advantage Compendium. Jack, always a pleasure. We'll call on you again. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.